We're going to move right along here to our next person. And first, before we do all that, I want to introduce myself. My name is Eddie Davis II, and I am the Grants and Development Director for Midwest BDC. Today, our featured speaker, and I apologize beforehand about your last name. I'm gonna try to sound it out as I say it. So, if
It will be fun to see you sweat. I want to see you try.
so we have Angie Ostaszewski. No,
Ostaszewski, super close.
okay. You want to say it?
Uh, Angie Ostaszewski, it's good to be with you.
Okay. Of New Buildings Institute, where she is the Associate Director of Marketing and Communication. Angie will talk about how we can move towards collective power while engaging with public service commissions and utilities. Angie is a seasoned professional with deep expertise and enthusiasm for energy efficiency, community-based programming, pilot design, program implementation, and achieving equity in all things. She currently serves as I said, the Associate Director of Client Marketing and Communications at New Buildings Institute. Outside of work, Angie is also grateful to serve on the Association of Energy Services Professionals Board, Illinois Central College Foundation, and the Peoria Chamber of Commerce Board. She graduated #1 in her class at Bradley. Well, congrats. University in the MBA program, and prior to that, studied economics and sociology at Knox College. She is the recipient of the 2022 AESP Diversity and Inclusion Leadership Award, the 2022 Midwest Energy Efficiency Alliance Rising Star Award, and the 2002 American Illinois President Award for Excellent Diversity and Inclusion. She also attracts diverse individuals to move to her city through her times in New York. And also, too, one last thing, I heard today that it's someone's birthday. So happy birthday to you. All those, if you can put a comment in the chat session to wish her happy birthday while we sit here and listen to the amazing Angie. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Edward. And yes, it's Leo season, y'all. I don't have slides today, so we're just going to be looking at each other, which is how I like it, honestly. But let me just say, dang, I am super honored to be here and to be part of the sustainability renaissance with all of you. I have never felt so seen, safe, and represented in the energy space as I do today. And when I met Marnice, the amazing executive director of Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition, I've learned to say that really fast. It took some practice. I felt an instant connection to her and the work that her team does. So thank you for gathering us here today. And hi to all the familiar faces. For those faces that are unfamiliar, my name is Angie Ostaszewski. I should have given y'all the way to pronounce it is like saying pasta chef ski, drop the P, pasta chef ski, Ostaszewski, but most people call me Angie O, to be honest. Yes. I recently transitioned from 8 years working for the utility to now serve as the Associate Director of Marketing and Communications at New Buildings Institute. They're one of the industry's leading voices in building decarbonization and a 501c3 nonprofit. And I did drop in the chat earlier that if you are interested in applying for the new federal funds, we have a lot of expertise in navigating, applying for, securing, and implementing federal funding. So if you're looking for a partner, partnership is everything to me. So hit me up. I'm going to start with a little bit about me. My early career can be summed up easily in one word: poverty, until I found energy. And through energy, I fell head over heels for equity programming, workforce development, supplier diversity, pilot planning, program operations. I've loved it all. I'm a highly enthusiastic person, if you can't tell. So I've been asked to tackle a tough question today. Can utilities and public utility commissions work in our collective favor as we advocate for an equitable, just, clean energy future? My super short hot take is yes. My super short real take is we have no other choice within our existing system. We can have a burn it down conversation on the side one day, but today we're talking about the system we live in. And in the next 15 minutes, I want to share with you how I navigated the utility in a way that preserved my values while still achieving a collective impact. Okay? Okay. So I'm going to start by giving you some context to who I am, because context is everything. Information is power, and it impacts how I view and approach this issue. So I was born to an immigrant family. My dad is Polish, my mom is Filipino. They met in California, and eventually I was born in Louisville, Kentucky, first generation of our family born in the US. I'm also queer, neurodivergent, and I struggle with chronic pain. Growing up, all of these things made me feel very other. I was lonely for most of my childhood. Culturally, I was super different from my peers. I brought hard-boiled egg sandwiches and longanisa to school. My grandpa was my best friend. I was painfully neurodivergent in a family that did not believe in mental illness. And I was Asian in a practically all-white Catholic school in Kentucky. So in my 20s, the internet, and let's be honest, really Tumblr, connected me to people that looked like me and struggled like me. And I began to feel a sense of belonging and groundedness. Is that a word? Is a word today. That helped me to take risks and see more than 5 seconds into my future. So in 2016, I left my nonprofit job that only paid me $28,000 a year for an internship at the utility Ameren, Illinois. And people still ask me, why that job? It's not that deep, y'all. It paid $23 an hour, and I was broke as hell. But from there, I realized I was a fast-moving contributor in a historically slow-moving space. People learned they could rely on me, that I would always help them solve a problem. And damn, is it amazing what you can accomplish when you have the security of a living wage. I started working as a liaison to the energy efficiency program, and I fell in love with program design. I started doing whatever they would let me do. I designed STEM programs with local Girl Scout troops for International Women's Day. I launched the second utility program in the US that takes tree trimmings from when they come out and trim trees that are hitting the power lines and deliver them regularly to zoos to serve as food sources for the animals in the service territory of my utility. Like, did you know stripping bark off of a tree branch is a very satisfying and important mental activity for zebras? Well, now you do. In 2018, I was offered the opportunity to go over to the energy efficiency team full-time and launch the market development initiative for Ameren, Illinois. It was thrilling to have so much autonomy. It was exhausting to create everything from scratch, and terrifying to do so many things that I thought were outside of my skill set. The Market Development Initiative was the first utility program of its kind, ever. It provided dedicated funding to achieve 3 goals in the energy efficiency space. The first, connect those who have been historically disenfranchised to energy-saving resources. The second, bring new job seekers into the energy efficiency field. And this is not jobs at the utility. This is any job in the energy efficiency field. And help to launch or expand small and diverse businesses through new revenue opportunities in energy. So from 2018 to 2023, my team and our network of over 40 community-based organizations all compensated for their time and participation, because like, please always compensate community-based organizations from ideation to implementation. But I digress. We accomplished the following. We connected over 400,000 people with energy efficiency rebates and weatherization programs. That was 1/3 of all Ameren, Illinois customers. More successful than any marketing campaign that had ever been launched. We placed over 250 people into full-time jobs, over 400 people into training programs at no cost to them, and facilitated the expansion of 25 local diverse contractors through boot camps and grants for equipment and staffing. And unlike many other utility programs, there were no cost effectiveness requirements. What that means, if you're like an energy person, that was the moment where you go, oh, because that's very rare. But what that means is there was no mandated cap on how many dollars you can spend to help each person, or arbitrary constraints that only really exist to limit the creativity and ability of folks to deliver meaningful equity programs. We eliminated boundaries on what counted as a valid barrier reduction service for folks coming out of incarceration or returning citizens. Our expanded criteria, we will help with anything keeping a person from a job. Your new employer requires a copy of your transcripts, but you can't afford to pay to get them sent. We got you. Your car broke down and you're going to lose your job without transportation. Here's a bus pass, and we're going to pay to get your car fixed. You miss 5 appointments with your career coach in a row because you're traumatized and just getting up every day takes every ounce of energy you have. That's fine. We will reschedule as many times as you like because we are being paid to serve you, and entitlement is just one more barrier to remove. So why, in this traditionally bureaucratic space, were we able to do all this? Like, we stood up 40 partnerships, a supplier diversity program, a contractor boot camp, an internship program, a scholarship program, and a job placement program that actually all worked as a system. Systems thinking is my specialty. There's 3 reasons why we were able to do this. Number 1, we were given the freedom to do so. At Ameren, I had an unwavering champion in Crystal Sims. That's Crystal spelled Kristol Sims. Look her up. She's the VP of the Clean Energy Transition now at Ameren, and she's the business, one of the baddest women on the planet, one of the leading Black female executives and the youngest executives in the utility industry. Like, she's my role model. Full stop. She didn't just encourage these programs, she mandated them. She fought for these equity programs and their funding to be approved through the Future Energy Jobs Act, and she did not give the energy efficiency program a choice. The message was clear from the beginning. Equity is and will be at the forefront of everything we do. Crystal is GOAT. Without someone saying, you have to do this, that high up in the company, I would not have succeeded. People can't simply be encouraged to relinquish power to marginalized communities. You can't get buy-in from everyone to combat systemic racism. It's not like change management where they're trying to convince people to use SharePoint. Like, these are real power struggles that people benefit from, and it's really hard to stop turning away. But Crystal was the change agent, and I knew she had my back every step of the way. Every time someone went over my head, and it was a lot of times to her to challenge the work that I was doing, they came back understanding that I was not just operating at my own whim. I was representing the company's vision. The opportunity was always there, and we finally had the ability to seize it. The utility is a hub that touches every single person in a community. Black and brown communities, rural communities, people with disabilities, returning citizens. All of us at some point have an interaction with the utility. Okay, number 2, why this worked. The support from stakeholders like all of you. I'm not going to paint you a rosy picture. It is really hard to disrupt programs that have existed for a decade and make them more equitable in their delivery. I had many joyful days, many tearful ones, and many replenished SSRI subscriptions for anxiety, okay? But in Illinois, we have been really lucky to have vocal and supportive stakeholders. Since I was over equity programs, it was really important to me that any diverse company that we worked with contracted directly with Ameren, not indirectly through some larger implementation firm that serves as a buffer. That was historically not in our procurement and contracting process. They were used to contracting with very large companies who had the financial capacity to meet any difficult contract terms, cybersecurity terms. Like, people did not want to change this. But you know who agreed with me? Folks who attended stakeholder calls like the SAG Equity Subcommittee, who vocally repeated how important it is for small vendors to have equal access to the utility so they can't be boxed out or have their work stolen by larger firms, which happens all the time. Those voices were the top of my business case, and they really mattered. We contracted directly with our partners and also underwent a massive project to reduce expensive cybersecurity and IT terms in standard contracts. We created data solutions where community-based organizations did not have to be liable for any data. I know contracting isn't a sexy topic, but that's a big deal. That's the difference between having to pay for thousands and thousands of dollars of cybersecurity insurance when I was working with nonprofits that did not have an IT department. And someone had to figure out how we could still work together. If you can't have a contract, you can't get money from the utility. This was really key. There was no company incentive to deviate from the norm, but there was a regulatory requirement to deliver these programs and the backing of several voices across the state. And it really, really made all the difference. And number 3, We had the power to change entire programs. With funding approved from the Public Utility Commission in Illinois, we had the ability to completely change programs the moment they weren't working. As you can imagine, it was really difficult finding employment opportunities for returning citizens. Many of my clients were in work release and still technically incarcerated. But we had the power to rework our budget and began funding the first 2 months' salary for any company that hired folks from our program. And people started getting hired because who gives you 2 months' salary for free? Many people stayed on after 2 months. Statistics actually show that returning citizens or people coming out of incarceration have the best retention rate with employers because they are loyal and grateful, and they work really, really hard because they face so many challenges. It's not an opinion, it's a stat. But for those that were let go, however, they now at least had some work experience for us to build off of to increase their chances at future job opportunities. We also overhauled the application process for our income qualified home efficiency program. We were working with these 40 plus nonprofit partners who were referring clients to us from their income eligible programs like Head Start. And yet we were still having them fill out income verification paperwork as part of their intake in our program. Like, why? So we got rid of those forms for nonprofit referrals. Folks could be referred in and go straight to their home energy audit without having to submit extra tax returns, W-9s, proof of occupancy, whatever. With the support of leaders like Crystal and stakeholders with genuine empathy for customers, we made the common sense decision and we just did it. Like, you never get to just do things at large Fortune 500 companies, but we did. So I know all of this is not traditional utility in the slightest, but I think it could be, and I'll come back to that. So I want to go on a really, really quick tangent. Do y'all know why utilities are regulated monopolies or natural monopolies, as they're often referred to in economics? I'm looking at the chat. You can tell me. I like when we talk to each other. If you Google what power lines look like before utilities became monopolies, there are photos where you can like barely see the sky. And that's because so many power providers existed and built their own infrastructure to deliver electricity that there were poles and wires like everywhere overhead, like everywhere. So we established one utility per geographic region, and we regulated them to protect consumers and created a regulatory process that allows consumers to participate and provide input. I don't think the system is perfect. What system is? But I live in Illinois, and I feel that we're very lucky in this state. We have those progressive stakeholders who seek out community members to participate and advise in proceedings that affect rates, infrastructure decisions, and efficiency programs. That advocacy led to the passage of the groundbreaking Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, which has funneled more money into clean energy jobs than we've ever seen before in Illinois. Illinois is also a deregulated state, which means that the utility does not own or profit from generation of energy. Instead, they profit from the delivery of power. We can pick our own source for the energy we use, and the utility delivers it to our homes and businesses through the grid. So essentially, deregulated utilities, like my previous employer, don't profit directly from the energy we use or how much of it we use. They profit from investing in assets and getting a return on that investment through the regulatory process, like pipes, substations, transmission lines. This is a gross oversimplification, but this is all information that I didn't know before I started working in energy. So all of this is to say, utilities can change, not necessarily of their own volition, but that's the power we hold. We can push regulation and policy. And when you find someone on the inside of a utility who aligns with you, you can be unstoppable. Additionally, any one of us can participate in proceedings with the Public Utility Commission, known as rate cases, which are ruled on by commissions to determine how the utility operates and is allowed to make money going forward. I know that the people here with us today, that's all y'all, can spur collective action through participation in this process. And I don't like to approach things that there's one right answer. I think in this case, there are so many right ways to proceed that can benefit people. Are you going to advocate that infrastructure expansion be targeted to just as 40 communities? Will you push for profit to be determined through alternative means rather than return on investment of infrastructure, and instead meeting goals to prevent customer disconnections or successfully ensuring efficiency programs are truly dedicated to marginalized households? Perhaps we shift and only provide incentives for the expansion of renewable resource infrastructure. Or we can advocate for all of those. There is such a vast need that I believe there are dozens of right answers we can bring together and push forward. We already shifted a bunch of states from utility-owned generation to the deregulated model we have in Illinois back in the 90s. Okay, I'm on my last paragraph. I see your face, Marnice. It's beautiful, and I'm going to wrap it up. So I'll leave you with that. Too often, I see a binary that we either need to agree on everything to work together or we pursue nothing. I'm reaching a decade in this field. Yes, I turned 34 today. If you want to say I look 24 in the chat, that's allowed. You know, I'm fine with that. But I've learned that we only need to agree on a few things to collaborate. It may be harder to trust one another. It won't be easy, but you can find a mutually beneficial arrangement if you're explicit and clear in your roles and responsibilities. It's possible. I've lived it. Today, all Illinois utilities have been required to follow Ameren Illinois and launch their own market development initiative. That means dedicated equity programs for every utility customer in Illinois. And we can continue to shape those programs and make them better. So thanks so much for your time. And if you want to partner or advocate to bring these kinds of equity programs to your state, hit me up.